The sky above Chicago split open like a living wound. Not a portal, not a spaceship, a tear. A violent rupture in reality itself, jagged green lightning tearing through crimson clouds as gravity distorted and skyscraper windows shattered from the pressure. People screamed. Cars flipped. And from that rift, something stepped through. A tall biomechanical figure hovered in the air, wings folding behind his back, emerald carapace glistening under burning sunlight. Black spots patterned his body like a predator's warning. His eyes scanned the world below with cold, clinical curiosity. Perfect, elegant, deadly. Cell had arrived. He didn't speak at first. He simply observed. Below him, a battlefield already raged. Buildings were cracked open like broken teeth. Smoke rose in pillars. Blood stained the pavement. And in the center of the chaos, Invincible was getting beaten into the concrete. His opponent hovered above him, calm, brutal, composed. Omni-Man wiped blood from his lip, eyes cold as stone. "You're holding back," Omni-Man growled. "That's why you're losing." Mark tried to stand. His ribs cracked audibly. Then the sky turned green. Omni-Man looked up. Cell descended slowly, aura flickering faintly around him, an eerie, contained energy like a star compressed into a flawless shell. The air vibrated around him, humming at a frequency that made every Viltrumite instinct scream in warning. Omni-Man narrowed his eyes. "Another one?" Cell tilted his head slightly. "This world—" His voice was smooth, analytical, calm. "Its inhabitants are powerful, yet primitive." Mark stared upward, confused and bleeding. "Who the hell are you?" Cell ignored him. Instead, he extended a hand. A single green energy sphere formed in his palm, small, almost harmless looking. Then he flicked it casually toward an empty skyscraper. The building didn't explode. It erased. Not shattered, not burned. Erased in a silent flash of emerald light, leaving nothing but open air and drifting dust. Omni-Man's expression shifted. Interest. Finally. He shot forward. The sonic boom cracked the sky as Omni-Man's fist collided with Cell's face. The impact shattered windows for miles. Cell didn't move. His head tilted slightly from the force. Then, slowly, he looked back at Omni-Man. "Oh," Cell murmured, "you are stronger than you appear." He backhanded Omni-Man. The shockwave carved a trench through 5 city blocks as Omni-Man's body tore through steel and concrete like paper before slamming into the lake beyond. Water exploded upward like a nuclear detonation. Mark's eyes widened. "No way." Cell flexed his fingers, scanning the biological residue left in the air from Omni-Man's strike. His pupils constricted slightly. Remarkable muscle density, extraordinary cellular cohesion, a warrior species. Before he could analyze further, the lake erupted. Omni-Man burst from the water at hypersonic speed, tackling Cell into the stratosphere. Clouds parted violently. The two figures became blurs of red and green streaking across the sky, colliding again and again. Punches landed with enough force to bend the curvature of clouds. Cell's aura flared brighter, neon green flames spiraling around his body as he absorbed the kinetic data of every strike. Omni-Man headbutted him, driving him back through a mountain range outside the city. Peaks shattered, stone avalanched. Cell coughed once, then smiled. Yes, this is promising." He vanished. Omni-Man blinked. Cell reappeared behind him, driving a knee into his spine and launching him back toward Chicago like a meteor. Mark barely had time to react before Omni-Man crashed into the city center, carving a molten trench across the streets. Civilians screamed. Sirens wailed. Cell descended slowly, hovering above the devastation like an executioner admiring his work. Mark flew up shakily, fury replacing fear. "Get away from it!" He threw a desperate punch. Cell caught it effortlessly. Their eyes locked. "You lack refinement," Cell said softly. He squeezed. Mark screamed as his arm snapped. Omni-Man roared from below and shot upward again, blood dripping from his mouth. The two Viltrumites attacked together now, father and son moving at impossible speeds, striking from opposite angles. For the first time, Cell was pushed back. Not overwhelmed, but tested. Blows landed. His carapace cracked slightly under Omni-Man's full-force punch. Mark drove a fist into his abdomen, drawing the first trace of dark green blood. Cell hovered, bleeding slightly. And then he laughed. The sound echoed, across the ruined skyline. "You injure me," he said. "Good." His aura ignited violently. Green lightning erupted around him, spiraling upward into the clouds. The pressure wave forced both Viltrumites backward. His wounds began to close. Slowly, deliberately. Omni-Man's eyes narrowed. "He's regenerating." Cell's voice deepened. "I was designed to achieve perfection. And you—" His tail uncoiled behind him for the first time. Maybe the missing piece. The ground below cracked as he shot downward at blinding speed. Before either Viltrumite could react, his tail pierced through a fallen Viltrumite soldier lying unconscious in the rubble nearby. One of the invaders who had fallen earlier in the battle. The absorption was instant. A violent green vortex spiraled around Cell's body as he drained the alien's biological essence. Bones snapped, flesh dissolved into energy. Omni-Man's face changed. For the first time, he looked alarmed. Cell's body convulsed mid-air. His aura exploded outward in a massive shockwave that flattened everything within half a mile. When the light faded, his musculature had subtly shifted, denser, sharper. His aura now pulsed with faint red undertones. Cell flexed his fingers slowly. "Oh!" His smile widened. "Viltrumite DNA." He vanished again, and this time, when he struck Omni-Man, the sound barrier didn't just break. It shattered. Omni-Man's body folded around the punch as blood sprayed across the sky. Mark screamed. Cell stood between them now, hovering calmly. "Your species possesses extraordinary combat evolution," he said thoughtfully, "but you are limited." He raised one finger toward the heavens. A sphere of energy began forming above Chicago. Not small, not controlled, massive. The sky darkened as the green sphere expanded, crackling with destructive power that dwarfed anything this world had ever seen. Mark stared upward in horror. "He's going to destroy the city." Omni-Man coughed blood, forcing himself to stand mid-air. "No, he's testing us." Cell's eyes gleamed. "Survive this, and perhaps you'll prove worthy of further study." The energy sphere swelled to the size of a stadium. Wind howled violently. Buildings began collapsing under the pressure alone. Mark clenched his fists. Omni-Man steadied his stance. Far away, in deep space, several Viltrumite ships shifted course. They had felt that power spike. And they were coming. Cell smiled as the sphere reached critical mass. "Let us begin." The energy dropped, and the world braced for annihilation. The sphere fell, not like a meteor, not like a bomb, like judgment. The green mass screamed through the sky, tearing the atmosphere apart as shockwaves detonated in rings around it. Windows vaporized, steel bent inward. The lake beneath Chicago began to rise, pulled upward by sheer gravitational distortion. Mark shot upward first. "No!" He slammed both hands against the descending sphere. It was like holding up a collapsing sun. His bones groaned instantly. Skin burned. The surface of the sphere rippled, disintegrating everything it touched into glowing dust. The force drove him downward inch by inch, boots carving trenches into the air itself as friction ignited around him. Omni-Man joined him a second later, shoulder crashing against the energy mass. "Push!" he roared. Their combined strength slowed it, but only slightly. Above them, Cell hovered, arms folded behind his back, observing like a scientist watching lab rats struggle under increasing pressure. "Fascinating," Cell murmured. "Your durability exceeds preliminary calculations." Mark screamed as his palms began to blister. "It's burning through us." Omni-Man's eyes flicked upward. "Then we redirect it." Together they shifted their angle, forcing the sphere sideways. The movement shattered nearby skyscrapers as the energy scraped across rooftops, vaporizing concrete in streaks of emerald fire. Below, civilians fled in waves. Sirens wailed. The sky was no longer blue. It was a violent storm of green lightning and smoke. The sphere detonated. Not fully. Mark and Omni-Man forced it high enough that the majority of the blast erupted in the upper atmosphere. The explosion painted the sky in a blinding emerald flash. Clouds evaporated. The shockwave flattened everything within 10 miles. Mark fell from the sky, smoke trailing from his suit. Omni-Man remained airborne, breathing heavily. Cell descended slowly through the fading glow, unharmed. His aura pulsed, stronger than before. "You endure," he said calmly, "but endurance is not evolution." Suddenly, Omni-Man attacked again. This time there was no hesitation. He struck Cell with a flurry of blows so fast the air itself combusted around them. Each punch detonated like artillery fire. Cell's body jerked under the barrage, carapace cracking, green blood spraying. Mark joined in, rage overriding pain. The two Viltrumites drove Cell through the skylines, smashing him through buildings, tearing into him with raw, desperate fury. For a moment, it looked like they were winning. Cell's body smashed into the pavement. He didn't move. Smoke rose from the crater. Mark landed beside Omni-Man, breathing hard. "Did we?" The crater twitched. Then laughter echoed from within it. Low, satisfied. Cell stood up slowly, chunks of his shell falling away like broken armor. His exposed flesh writhed and then regenerated, smoother than before. His aura ignited again, this time darker, laced with red energy strands pulsing through the green. "You have accelerated my adaptation," he said softly. "I appreciate your contribution." He vanished. Omni-Man barely had time to turn before Cell reappeared directly in front of him. The punch that followed didn't just send Omni-Man flying. It broke the sound barrier twice. Blood sprayed in an arc as Omni-Man's jaw shattered. Mark screamed and charged. Cell met him mid-air. They clashed, blow for blow, Mark's rage making him reckless, wild. Cell's movements were precise, efficient, cold. He blocked, countered, adjusted. Within seconds, he had analyzed Mark's fighting rhythm. He caught Mark's leg mid-kick and slammed him into the ground, hard enough to fracture the street grid beneath Chicago. "Your emotional volatility," Cell observed, pressing Mark deeper into the crater, "is a weakness." Mark coughed blood. "Shut up!" Cell's tail twitched behind him. In the distance, Viltrumite warships tore through Earth's atmosphere. Silver hulls burned red as they descended like blades from heaven. Omni-Man saw them first. Reinforcements. But even his expression didn't show relief. It showed calculation. Cell noticed. "Oh," he mused, "more specimens." The sky erupted as dozens of Viltrumites launched from their ships. They moved as one, disciplined, lethal. They didn't speak. They attacked. The first wave hit Cell simultaneously. A storm of fists and elbows and bone-crushing strikes. The sky became a blur of red capes and green lightning. Each impact shook the city below like an earthquake. For the first time, Cell was overwhelmed. His body was driven downward under the sheer mass of coordinated assault. Viltrumites locked onto his limbs, restraining him mid-air. Omni-Man joined them without hesitation. "Now," he barked. They drove him into the upper atmosphere, past the clouds, past the ozone layer, into open space. Earth spun silently beneath them. Cell's aura flickered as vacuum pressure compressed around him. The Viltrumites tightened their grip. Omni-Man glared into Cell's eyes. "You don't belong here." Cell smiled. On the contrary, his aura detonated. A spherical shockwave of green-red energy blasted outward, shredding flesh and bone in zero gravity. Several Viltrumites exploded instantly. Others were hurled into orbit. Omni-Man was thrown backward, blood trailing behind him like a crimson ribbon. Cell floated freely now, unhindered. His shell had cracked again, but instead of weakening, he began changing. The absorbed Viltrumite DNA activated fully. His musculature thickened. His aura intensified. His tail elongated slightly. Energy spiraled around him like a galaxy caught in human form. "Your species evolves through survival," Cell said calmly, voice echoing in the vacuum through sheer energy projection. "So do I." He raised one hand toward Earth. From orbit, a beam lanced downward. Not large, or not dramatic, or precise. It pierced directly into one of the descending Viltrumite ships. The ship split in half silently, then exploded in a silent fireball in space. The remaining Viltrumites hesitated. That hesitation cost them. Cell moved, and the slaughter began. He tore through them with surgical brutality, breaking spines, crushing skulls, ripping bodies apart in zero gravity. Each death fed his analysis. Each drop of alien blood added to his understanding. Omni-Man charged again, furious now. Their clash in orbit sent visible ripples across the planet's atmosphere below. Punches landed hard enough to redirect small asteroids. Cell caught Omni-Man mid-charge. His tail lashed forward and pierced him. Omni-Man's eyes widened. Mark screamed from below as he rocketed upward. Cell began draining. Energy flowed visibly, red and white streaks spiraling into Cell's body. Omni-Man struggled violently, but Cell's grip tightened. "I will not merely destroy this world," Cell whispered. "I will perfect it." Mark collided into Cell with everything he had. The impact severed the tail. Omni-Man fell free, gasping. Cell drifted backward, tail stump regenerating slowly. He looked down at Earth, then at the remaining Viltrumite fleet, then at Mark and Omni-Man hovering protectively in front of the planet. His smile returned. Very well. His aura began expanding, not outward, upward, into deep space. A signal. A beacon. Mark felt it instantly. "This isn't over." Omni-Man's breathing was ragged. "No," he said quietly. "Far beyond the solar system. Something else felt that signal. And whatever it was far worse than Cell." Cell folded his arms as the remaining Viltrumites regrouped behind Omni-Man. "Round 2, he said softly. The stars above flickered faintly, as if something immense had just turned its gaze toward Earth. The stars moved, not metaphorically, not poetically. They physically shifted. High above Earth's orbit, the fabric of space rippled outward from a distant point, like something enormous had pressed a hand against the universe itself. Omni-Man felt it first. Every Viltrumite did. Ancestral instinct, predatory awareness, the sense that something higher on the food chain had just noticed movement. Mark swallowed hard. What is that? Hovering between them, Cell tilted his head slightly, studying the distortion he himself had triggered. Yes, he murmured. Come. The ripple intensified. Then space tore open, not like Cell's arrival. This was cleaner. Controlled. A vertical fracture of white light split the void, stretching miles across. From within it stepped three figures, tall, broad-shouldered, caped in crimson and black. Their mustaches curved like blade. Their eyes were cold. At their center hovered the largest of them all. Calm, dominant, terrifying. Thrag had arrived. The remaining Viltrumites instantly shifted formation, instinctively lowering their heads in silent acknowledgement. Omni-Man's jaw tightened. Thrag's voice carried effortlessly through vacuum. Explain! His gaze shifted from Omni-Man to Cell, and for the first time, there was visible curiosity. Mark whispered, "That's him?" Omni-Man didn't respond. Cell smiled wider. "How efficient," Cell observed. "You detected my signal faster than expected." Thrag floated forward slightly. "You are not Viltrumite." "No. Yet you carry our biology." Cell flexed his fingers, aura flickering crimson-green. "A temporary acquisition?" Thrag's eyes narrowed slightly. "You killed my soldiers." Cell nodded once. "They were instructional." The remaining Viltrumites bristled. Mark felt it building. This wasn't just another fight. This was a test of dominance between apex predators. Thrag spoke calmly. "You will submit for study." Cell laughed softly. "You misunderstand." His aura flared violently, emerald lightning coiling around him. "I am the study." And he vanished. Thrag reacted instantly. Their collision tore open space. No explosion, no sound. Just a silent distortion ripple that bent starlight itself. They moved faster than perception, two blurs smashing across orbit. Thrag's fist connected with Cell's jaw, snapping his head sideways. Cell retaliated with a knee strike that would have shattered planets. Thrag didn't flinch. He grabbed Cell by the throat and hurled him downward. Cell streaked toward Earth like a green comet. Mark gasped. "He's going to crash into the city." Omni-Man grabbed Mark's shoulder. "Watch!" Cell corrected mid-fall. He stopped inches above the atmosphere, then shot back upward with a roar. His aura ignited brighter than ever before, now streaked heavily with crimson veins, Viltrumite power fully integrated. He collided with Thrag again. This time, Thrag moved. The Emperor countered with terrifying efficiency, each strike precise, surgical. He broke through Cell's guard and drove a fist straight through his abdomen. Green blood sprayed into space. Mark stared in shock. Thrag ripped his arm free. Cell's body drifted for half a second. Then, his wound sealed. Faster than before. Thrag's eyes sharpened. "Regeneration," he said quietly. Cell's voice deepened. "Perfection." He thrust both palms forward. A twin beam of condensed ki erupted outward, brilliant emerald lances that cut through two nearby Viltrumites instantly, vaporizing them mid-charge. The remaining warriors attacked in formation, but Thrag raised a hand. They stopped. "This one is mine." Cell grinned. They clashed again, now fully engaged. Thrag abandoned restraint. His strikes carried centuries of combat experience, every punch optimized for maximum internal damage. He drove Cell backward through orbit, slamming him into the moon's surface. The impact cracked lunar stone for miles. Dust clouds exploded into space. Cell rose from the crater. Shell fractured heavily now. He was bleeding, but he was smiling. "Yes," he whispered.
His body convulsed. The cracked portions of his carapace began hardening, reforming, sharper, more aerodynamic. His aura stabilized, less chaotic, more focused. Thrag landed before him calmly. You adapt quickly. Cell tilted his head. I evolve. Thrag charged again. This time, Cell matched him, blow for blow. Impact for impact. The moon began breaking apart beneath them. Chunks of rock spiraled toward Earth. Mark stared in horror. If that debris hits the planet... Omni-Man shot downward instantly, intercepting the largest fragments before atmospheric entry. Back on the moon, Thrag grabbed Cell's face and slammed him repeatedly into stone. Cell's tail lashed out. Thrag caught it and ripped it off. Green energy exploded outward as the severed appendage drifted into space. Cell staggered back. Thrag didn't hesitate. He drove a fist into Cell's chest. And this time, it stayed there. Thrag's hand pierced fully through his torso. He lifted Cell into the air. You are powerful, Thrag admitted coldly, but you are not superior. Cell coughed. Blood floated between them. Then he laughed. You misunderstand. His body began glowing from within. Thrag's eyes widened slightly. You attacked my core. A blinding flash erupted. Cell self-detonated. The explosion consumed half the moon. Thrag was hurled through space violently. Viltrumites were thrown like leaves in a hurricane. Earth's sky turned white from reflected light. Mark shielded his eyes from orbit. When the light faded, the moon was fractured, floating in massive pieces. And Cell was gone. Nothing remained. Omni-Man hovered tensely. Did he? Thrag reappeared from drifting debris, blood running down his face. He scanned the void. Silence. Then, a single cell, microscopic, clinging to a drifting moon fragment. It pulsed faintly, green, and began dividing. Back on Earth, deep beneath the ocean floor, something stirred in the darkness.
A small green orb of light appeared between tectonic plates, regenerating, rebuilding, evolving. Thrag narrowed his eyes. He lives, and somewhere in the crushing depths below Earth's crust. Cell's voice echoed softly. Round 3. The oceans above trembled, and no one on the surface knew what was about to rise from below. The ocean floor split open. Miles beneath the surface, where sunlight had never reached and pressure crushed submarines into scrap, the tectonic plates trembled like frightened animals. Lava veins pulsed brighter. Entire trenches shifted. And in the abyss, a green light flickered. Small. Beating. Alive. Then it expanded. A sphere of bioorganic energy pushed outward from the seabed, vaporizing water into explosive steam columns that shot toward the surface like underwater nuclear detonations. Satellites detected it instantly. Viltrumite sensors reacted. On the fractured remains of the moon, Thrag turned his head toward Earth. He felt it. Not just survival. Evolution. Below Chicago's ruined skyline, Invincible hovered beside Omni-Man, both watching the ocean horizon begin to glow faintly green. Mark's voice shook. He blew himself up. How is he? Omni-Man didn't blink. Viltrumite survived near death. He absorbed that trait, combined with whatever else he is. This was inevitable. The ocean erupted. A spiral of water twisted into the sky, forming a towering cyclone that pierced the clouds. Warships in orbit adjusted position defensively. At the center of the spiraling vortex, a silhouette rose slowly. Larger, sharper, different. Water vaporized around him before it could even touch his skin. When he fully emerged above the ocean, the storm itself bent around his body like a crown. Cell had changed. His carapace was sleeker, darker green with crimson lining tracing his body like veins of power. His shoulders were broader. His aura was no longer chaotic lightning, It was controlled, dense, like a star compressed into flesh. He inhaled deeply, and the storm stopped. The clouds parted unnaturally. Sunlight pierced through and reflected off his polished bio-armor. Above, Thrag descended through the atmosphere like a falling blade. He landed mid-air across from Cell, heat trailing off his body. "You detonated yourself," Thrag said calmly. Cell's eyes gleamed. "And you survived." Thrag's expression didn't change. "But you lost." Cell tilted his head slightly. "Did I?" The ocean behind him began rising again, not from explosion, but from gravity bending toward him. Mark whispered from a distance. "He's heavier." Omni-Man corrected him quietly. "No, denser." Thrag attacked without warning. This time there was no testing, no assessment. His fist collided with Cell's face with enough force to split a continent. The ocean below parted in a straight line for miles, but Cell didn't move. Thrag's eyes flickered, just slightly. Cell grabbed his wrist. Tight. The water beneath them imploded from the pressure shift. "You strike with experience," Cell said calmly, "but I strike with adaptation." He headbutted Thrag. The shockwave tore the clouds into spiraling rings. Thrag staggered back mid-air. The remaining Viltrumite fleet opened fire, planetary bombardment beams raining down like red spears from orbit. Cell didn't look up. His aura flared outward in a smooth spherical field. The beams bent, curved, and shot back upward. 3 warships detonated instantly. Mark's heart pounded. He's redirecting their energy. Thrag roared and launched forward again. This time he attacked with full fury, elbows, knees, bone-breaking combinations aimed at joints and nerve clusters. He tore chunks from Cell's armor, green blood sprayed across the sky. But Cell was faster now, cleaner, every wound sealed in seconds. He countered with precise strikes to Thrag's throat, solar plexus, jaw. Each hit calculated. Each hit more efficient than the last. Then Cell did something unexpected. He allowed Thrag to land a clean punch directly to his chest. The blow echoed like thunder. His armor cracked again. Thrag followed with another strike, but Cell grabbed his arm mid-motion. His other hand pierced into Thrag's shoulder, not to kill, to sample. Energy fled violently between them as Cell extracted cellular data directly through contact. Thrag's eyes widened slightly. Cell smiled. "Your combat mastery will integrate nicely." He blasted Thrag point blank with a compressed ki burst. The explosion hurled the Viltrumite Emperor through the clouds and into the stratosphere. Mark flew upward impulsively. "Stop him!" Omni-Man grabbed him mid-flight. "No!" "Are you insane?" Omni-Man's voice was steady but tight. "If we intervene now, we die. Let them weaken each other." Above the atmosphere, Thrag stabilized himself.
Blood trailed from his mouth. For the first time, he looked furious. He charged downward at maximum velocity. Cell met him head-on. Their collision ignited the upper atmosphere like a meteor impact. The sky turned red. Cities below shook violently. Windows shattered across continents. They grappled mid-air, pushing against each other with planet-cracking force. Thrag roared and drove both of them upward again, straight through one of the fractured moon fragments still drifting from the earlier explosion. Rock disintegrated around them. In space, they continued fighting atop drifting lunar debris. Thrag wrapped his arms around Cell and began squeezing. Bone creaked. Armor cracked again. "You evolve," Thrag growled, "but you are not eternal." Cell's aura pulsed darker. "Neither are you." Suddenly, Cell's body shifted again. His musculature tightened. His aura compressed inward. Thrag realized too late. Cell wasn't breaking. He was concentrating power. A point-blank eruption exploded outward from Cell's core. Not self-destruction this time. Controlled release. Thrag was blasted away violently, smashing through 3 moon fragments before stopping. Cell hovered alone amid the debris, breathing steady. Aura calm, perfected further. Below, Mark stared at the sky, glowing red. He's getting stronger, every minute. Omni-Man nodded slowly. Yes. Mark looked at him. Then what do we do? Omni-Man's eyes stayed locked upward. We survived long enough for someone stronger to arrive. In orbit, Thrag steadied himself again. Bruised. Bleeding. But smiling. You adapt well, he admitted. Cell hovered opposite him, eyes gleaming. And you endure well? Far beyond the solar system. That earlier signal pulsed again. Stronger now. Something massive shifted course toward Earth. Not Viltrumite. Not Saiyan. Something ancient. Thrag felt it. Cell felt it. Both paused for a fraction of a second. Thrag narrowed his eyes. You've drawn attention. Cell's smile widened slowly. Good. The stars flickered again. Closer this time, and whatever was coming, it was coming fast. The stars didn't just flicker this time. They went dark. One by one, distant lights blinked out as something enormous moved between them and Earth, blocking entire constellations from view. Astronomers across the planet screamed into headsets. Satellites lost signal. Viltrumite warships rotated defensively. In orbit, fragments of the shattered moon drifted like a broken crown around the planet. Between them, Cell and Thrag hovered in silence. Both felt it. Neither retreated. A distortion formed beyond Mars, subtle at first, then space folded inward, compressing like paper crumpled by an invisible hand. A circular void expanded, swallowing starlight, and from within it, a structure emerged. Not a ship, a construct. Black, angular, cathedral-like in scale, stretching hundreds of miles across. Its surface pulsed with faint violet energy veins, like something alive beneath armor. Mark's voice crackled over Viltrumite comms from below. That thing makes the warships look like toys. Omni-Man answered quietly. That isn't a fleet. On the lunar debris, Thrag's jaw tightened. It is not Viltrumite. Cell's eyes gleamed with fascination. Excellent! The construct stabilized in orbit. A beam of violet light scanned Earth, slowly sweeping across continents. Oceans glowed faintly where it passed. Fault lines vibrated. Chicago's ruined skyline trembled again. Inside the structure, something moved. The central chamber opened like a blooming mechanical flower, and a figure stepped out, humanoid in outline, but far larger than either Cell or Thrag. Its body shimmered like liquid obsidian, constellations swirling faintly across its surface as if galaxies were trapped inside its skin. Its eyes were twin violet stars. It didn't speak at first. It simply observed. Cell tilted his head. Thrag shifted slightly, ready. The being's voice finally resonated, not through sound, but directly through space-time. Adaptive anomaly detected. Its gaze fixed on Cell. Genetic assimilation beyond native universal parameters. Mark shuddered from Earth's surface. What does that even mean? Omni-Man's answer was grim. It means we are not the biggest threat here anymore. Cell stepped forward slightly on the drifting moon fragment, aura pulsing calmly. I assume you were summoned by my signal. The being's eyes intensified. You triggered a multiversal monitoring beacon. You are not registered in this dimension. Cell smiled. I am self-made. Thrag floated closer to him, not out of alliance, out of necessity. You have endangered this planet, Thrag said coldly. Cell glanced sideways at him. You were attempting conquest. Thrag didn't deny it. The being raised one hand. Gravity inverted for a split second. All debris in orbit shot outward violently before slamming back inward. Thrag steadied himself instantly. Cell adjusted mid-motion, aura stabilizing the distortion around him. The being analyzed. Rapid adaptation confirmed. Without warning, it attacked. A violet beam erupted from its palm, not wide, not explosive, precise. It struck Cell directly in the chest. There was no explosion, just absence. Cell's torso vanished from existence for a fraction of a second. Thrag moved immediately, launching himself at the being. His fist connected with its face and passed through, as if striking liquid void. The being's other hand closed around Thrag's skull mid-air. It didn't squeeze. It simply increased gravity around his head. Thrag roared as the pressure spiked, veins bulging. On Earth, Mark screamed upward, "We have to help him!" Omni-Man grabbed him again. "You would die before you reached them!" Above, Cell's missing torso reformed, regeneration struggling, slower this time. He hovered shakily. The being turned toward him. Regeneration capacity extraordinary. Cell coughed, green blood evaporating in vacuum. Yes, very good." His aura fled violently again, pushing back the gravitational field. He charged. This time, he didn't hold back. A full-force key beam erupted from both hands, brilliant emerald light cutting through space, distorting the vacuum as it slammed into the being. The beam actually pushed it back several miles. Thrag broke free from the gravity hold and attacked simultaneously, driving his fist into the being's torso with planet-cracking force. For the first time, the being reacted. Its surface rippled. A fracture line of violet light appeared across its chest. Cell's eyes widened slightly. Interesting. The being retaliated instantly. Its body shifted, forming a blade-like extension from its arm that sliced through Thrag's side. Viltrumite blood sprayed into orbit. Thrag didn't retreat. He grabbed the blade and ripped it free, countering with a headbutt that shook nearby moon fragments. Cell appeared behind the being and drove both palms into its back. Solar Kamehameha. A concentrated beam exploded outward, engulfing the construct behind it and carving a luminous scar across space. Earth's atmosphere ignited again from reflected energy. Mark shielded his eyes as the sky turned green and violet. When the light faded, the massive black structure was partially destroyed. Chunks of it drifted away, burning. The being floated amid the wreckage. Its fractured chest slowly repaired itself, but slower than before. Cell hovered opposite it, breathing heavier now. Thrag floated at his side, bleeding but upright. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. The being's voice resonated again. Escalation required. The entire construct began shifting, reconfiguring into a singular concentrated core behind the being. Energy levels spiked astronomically. Satellites overloaded and exploded in orbit. The ocean tides on Earth surged violently. Mark felt his knees weaken. It's going to fire at the planet. Omni-Man stared upward, silent. Cell's aura intensified. Thrag's fists clenched. The being raised both hands. A sphere of violet energy began forming, far larger than Cell's earlier attack. This wasn't city level. This wasn't continental. This was extinction. Cell glanced sideways at Thrag. Thrag met his eyes briefly. An understanding passed between them. Temporary, fragile, necessary. Cell smirked faintly. Shall we? Thrag's answer was simple. For Viltrum. For perfection, Cell replied. They launched forward together, just as the violet sphere reached critical mass, and Earth hung beneath them. seconds away from annihilation.
The sky above Chicago is still bleeding smoke. Sirens echo, fires rage. News helicopters circle the skyline, broadcasting the devastation Cell left behind in his first appearance. Entire districts look like they've been peeled open by a god. Inside the orbiting headquarters of the Global Defense Agency, red alarms pulse against steel walls. Cecil Stedman doesn't blink. "Deploy them," he says calmly. And in a flash of teleportation light, the new guardians of the globe arrive. On the ruined streets below, Cell stands in silence. Perfect, untouched, arms folded. Green bioarmor glistening under the burning skyline. His golden eyes scan the destruction with mild disappointment. "Is this the pinnacle of your planet's defense?" he murmurs to himself. A boom splits the air. Invincible slams down in front of him, concrete exploding outward. Mark Grayson's suit is torn from earlier battles. Blood streaks his cheek, but his eyes burn. "You don't get to hurt anyone else." Cell tilts his head. "Ah, the hybrid. Your power intrigues me." Another sonic boom. Atom Eve floats down behind Mark, pink cosmic energy shimmering around her hands like living starlight. Rex Splode flips off a hovering vehicle, cracking his knuckles. Ugly bug guy talks too much. Robot hovers silently above them, analyzing. Data streams across his visor. Monster Girl crouches low, muscles coiled. Black Samson tightens his fists. Duplicate splits into 10 identical copies in a ripple of motion. The new Guardians form a circle around Cell. For the first time since arriving, Cell smiles. This will be educational." Mark moves first. He vanishes and reappears in front of Cell with a punch that shatters the sound barrier. The impact cracks the street for half a mile. Shockwaves blast windows out of nearby buildings. Smoke clears. Cell hasn't moved. He caught Mark's fist. 2 fingers. Mark's eyes widen. Cell whispers softly. "Impressive, but insufficient." He flicks his wrist, and Mark rockets through 3 skyscrapers like a meteor. Boom, boom. Eve screams, firing a blast of pink molecular energy. It slams into Cell's back, erupting into a blinding sphere of light. The street melts into glass. When the glow fades, Cell steps forward through the smoke, unharmed. His bioarmor regenerates tiny scratches in seconds. "How fascinating," Cell says, examining Eve's energy residue on his palm. "Matter manipulation at a subatomic level. I will enjoy dissecting that." Rex hurls explosive charges. Monster Girl leaps. Black Samson swings. Cell disappears. He reappears behind Rex. A chop to the neck. Rex drops instantly. Monster Girl roars and slams Cell into the pavement, dragging him through asphalt and steel. The ground splits open. Cell laughs mid-impact. "You lack refinement." He grabs Monster Girl's arm and tears her off him, hurling her into the horizon like a missile. Robots' drones fire plasma beams from above, carving trenches through the city. Cell raises one finger. A thin golden beam fires upward. It slices through every drone in a perfect arc. Robot freezes. Energy output exceeds projections by 430%, he mutters. Cell appears in front of him. "I can hear you calculating." He punches Robot through a high-rise tower. From the rubble, a roar. Mark explodes back into the battlefield, faster, angrier. He slams into Cell mid-air. The two tear into the sky, trading blows that ripple clouds apart. Each punch detonates like a nuclear test. Chicago's skyline trembles. Mark screams, driving Cell upward. "You picked the wrong planet." Cell backhands him. Blood sprays into the atmosphere. They crash back to Earth like twin comets. Crater, Firestorm, dust cloud, miles wide. Eve pushes herself up, breathing hard. Mark. Cell stands first. Of course he does. His chest plate cracks slightly. And for the first time, he looks pleased. Yes, he whispers. There it is. Viltrumite durability. Cyan battle adaptation. Oh, wait. He pauses. No, not cyan, but something similar. Evolution through combat. His eyes glow brighter. If I absorb you, imagine what I become. Mark tries to stand. Cell vanishes and drives his knee into Mark's spine. The crack echoes like thunder. Mark collapses. Duplicate charges with a swarm of copies. Cell spins. A shockwave erupts from his body. Every duplicate disintegrates mid-air. The original Kate screams as the pressure slams her into a wall. Eve gathers everything she has. Pink energy spirals around her like a dying star. The air vibrates, molecules scream. She launches a full-force molecular disintegration beam. It engulfs Cell entirely. A pillar of pink light pierces the sky. For 10 seconds, nothing exists but that beam. Silence. Then, the energy fades. Cell stands inside a molten crater head, his armor partially destroyed. Steam rising from his body. One arm regenerating. He exhales slowly. That was magnificent. He looks at Eve with genuine admiration. You almost erased me. Her hands tremble. He lifts his palm. A thin beam forms at his fingertip. Golden. Focused. Deadly. Mark sees it. No. The beam fires. But before it hits Eve, a blue teleportation flash engulfs her. She vanishes. Cecil. Cell's beam slices through a mountain in the distance instead, and he lowers his hand slowly. Oh. His eyes narrow. Now that is irritating. The clouds above split open. A sonic boom shakes the planet. A red and white blur rockets downward. Omni-Man. Nolan Grayson lands between Cell and his broken sun. He doesn't look at Mark. His eyes are locked on Cell. Cold. Evaluating. You're not Viltrumite, Nolan says quietly. Cell smiles wider than ever. And you are far stronger than the child. The air tightened. 2 apex predators. Cell's biosensors scream with excitement. Nolan rolls his shoulders. You've killed enough. Cell steps forward. No, I've only begun. They disappear simultaneously. The shockwave flattens what remains of downtown Chicago. A thunderclap echoes across continents. The real fight has finally started. Above the burning Earth, satellites lose signal. Cecil whispers to himself, if Omni-Man can't stop him. On the battlefield, Cell catches one of Omni-Man's punches mid-air and smiles. The sky above Chicago has turned a toxic green. Smoke and debris twist in spiraling wind currents as fires rage across the city. Buildings tilt like dominoes, half collapsed, molten glass dripping from shattered windows. The guardians of the globe regroup, but their faces betray exhaustion, fear, and disbelief. Mark hovers mid-air, blood streaking his cheeks, suit torn in multiple places. He's unstoppable, he mutters, voice strained. Nothing we have can even scratch him. Cell stands below him, arms crossed, aura radiating a faint emerald glow. The tiniest sparks of energy arc across his carapace. His body is calm, yet every movement radiates the potential to annihilate the planet. You are persistent, Cell says softly, but persistence is irrelevant without evolution. Atom Eve floats forward, pink energy coiling around her hands, forming a crackling sphere the size of a car. He's killing everyone, Mark. We have to... Cell disappears before she can finish. Then he reappears behind her, moving faster than the eye can track. One swipe of his tail sends her crashing through a half-collapsed skyscraper. Debris rains down around her, but she pushes herself up, eyes blazing with determination. "You won't," she gasps, voice broken but fierce. Rex Splode launches a barrage of explosives. They explode harmlessly against the armor of Cell. He tilts his head, watching each detonation with curiosity rather than fear. Energy dispersal techniques, primitive yet amusing. Monster Girl lunges screaming, her fists becoming deadly hammers as she strikes Cell's torso. He catches her mid-swing, lifts her into the air effortlessly and hurls her into the horizon. She disappears behind smoke and rubble, barely conscious. Robot floats above, scanning, calculating. Energy signature exceeds all previous combat models, he mutters. A beam fires from his shoulder cannons, bright blue plasma, but Cell moves with effortless precision, catching each beam in his hand and evaporating it into sparks of green energy. Mark clenches his fists, rage replacing fear. He launches himself at Cell again, moving faster than sound. Their collision tears a gash through the city, sending tremors that crack streets and topple buildings. Every punch they trade sends shockwaves through the skyline. "You're fast," Cell says, smiling faintly as he blocks a flurry of attacks. "But you still lack control." Mark roars, striking again and again, his Saiyan instincts flaring in desperation. Blood sprays across his face as Cell counters each blow with deadly precision. Every time Mark thinks he has an opening, Cell adjusts, reading him like a perfect equation. The Guardians attempt to regroup. Duplicate creates dozens of copies, hoping to overwhelm him. Cell spins, and the air explodes in a concussive shockwave, disintegrating all duplicates in an instant. The original Kate is slammed into a building, barely conscious. Atom Eve charges another massive beam. Her hands glowing like a dying sun, she fires it directly at Cell. The beam pierces the skyline, engulfing him completely. 10 seconds pass, then the glow fades. Cell emerges, steaming but intact. His armor is partially cracked, his aura flaring brighter. "Excellent," he says. "I will enjoy every one of you." From the clouds above, a red and white blur descends. Omni-Man lands between Cell and Mark, fists clenched, jaw tight. "You're not going to hurt anyone else," he says coldly. Cell tilts his head, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. The real apex predator has arrived. Without hesitation, they collide. The air explodes around them as planet-shaking force detonates in every direction. Buildings collapse, streets fracture, fires rage. The battle escalates beyond comprehension. Cell grins mid-fight, analyzing Omni-Man's attacks in real time, adapting faster than any Viltrumite he has faced. Omni-Man strikes again and again, but each hit is partially absorbed, partially anticipated. "Perfection," Cell murmurs, his aura exploding outward. "This is exactly what I needed." The collision between Viltrumite and bioengineered monster tears the skyline into molten chaos. Mark watches from below, knowing he needs to intervene or all hope on Earth is gone. Cell laughs, a cold, echoing sound. "And now, we begin the next phase." The entire city shudders. Smoke and ash fill the sky. The Guardians barely hold their positions. And from deep beneath the rubble, a faint green pulse spreads outward. Cell is preparing again. The air above Chicago vibrated, thick with tension and energy. The fires below cast long shadows that danced across the fractured streets, smoke curling into the emerald glow radiating from Cell's bio-armor. The Guardians of the Globe struggled to regroup, battered, bloodied, and desperate. Cell hovered effortlessly, aura pulsing in perfect rhythm, scanning each opponent with cold precision. "Such resilience," he murmured. "But it is primitive." Mark clenched his fists, rage blinding his fear. "Primitive? You killed half my city!" He lunged, sonic boom tearing the air. Their fists collided mid-air, creating a shockwave that leveled the nearest block. Glass rained down like shards of ice. Cell tilted his head, analyzing the hybrid's every movement. He anticipated Mark's next punch, sidestepping with a fluid grace that defied physics. A single flick of his tail sent Mark crashing through a skyscraper, chunks of concrete spinning like deadly projectiles. Atom Eve floated upward, her pink energy coalescing into a giant sphere around her hands. "Mark, I've got your back!" Cell's eyes flicked toward her. A faint smile curved his lips. Matter manipulation, subatomic precision. How delightful. He vanished mid-motion. Eve screamed as he reappeared behind her, tail whipping her across the street with brutal force. The concrete beneath her exploded under the impact. Rex Splode hurled a torrent of explosives from above. Each detonated harmlessly against Cell's armor. He caught one mid-air, examining it with detached curiosity before flicking it back as a tiny green spark. Predictable. Monster Girl lunged, fists enlarged, attempting to smash him into the ground. Cell caught her mid-swing and hurled her through the horizon like a projectile, the cityscape behind her splintering with each impact. Robot analyzed rapidly, hovering above. Energy output exceeds all previous projections by 432%. He fired plasma beams from every drone simultaneously. Cell flicked his wrist, each beam vaporized mid-air, exploding into sparks of emerald light. Mark roared and launched himself again. Their collision tore a jagged crater across the city, sending tremors that fractured streets for miles. Each punch sent shockwaves tearing apart buildings. Windows shattered, flames roared higher, and the sky itself seemed to shudder under the violence. "You're fast," Cell said softly, a hint of admiration in his tone, but still predictable. Mark gritted his teeth, striking relentlessly. Blood spattered across his face. Every time he thought he had an opening, Cell adjusted seamlessly, predicting his movements, adapting instantly. Duplicate multiplied, dozens of copies surrounding Cell in a desperate attempt to overwhelm him. Cell spun, the air detonating in a concussive shockwave that incinerated every copy instantly. The original Kate screamed as the pressure slammed her into a building barely conscious. Atom Eve gathered all her energy into a massive molecular disintegration beam. The pink light tore through the skyline, engulfing Cell entirely. For 10 seconds, the world vanished in blinding brilliance. When the light faded, Cell stepped calmly from the molten crater. Steam rose from his body. His armor was cracked, but he remained fully intact. "Excellent," he whispered. "I will enjoy this." From the clouds above, a red and white blur descended like a missile. Omni-Man landed between Cell and Mark, fists clenched, jaw tight. "You're not going to hurt anyone else," he said coldly. Cell tilted his head, eyes gleaming. "Ah, the apex predator arrives." They collided mid-air. The resulting shockwave leveled blocks of the city, flattened streets, and shattered glass from miles away. Omni-Man struck again and again, but each hit was partially absorbed, partially predicted. Cell adapted instantly, matching the Viltrumite blow for blow. "Perfection," Cell murmured, aura flaring outward. "Finally, a challenge worthy of my evolution." The collision ripped a deep gouge through the skyline, detonating fires and shaking the foundations of nearby buildings. Mark watched from below, heart pounding. He knew he had to intervene or all hope on Earth was gone. Cell laughed, a cold, echoing sound. "And now we escalate." The air thickened, charged with energy. The city trembled under the weight of their combined power. From deep beneath the rubble, a faint green pulse spread outward. a warning that Cell was preparing his next devastating move. Mark, bloodied and battered, clenched his fists. He's getting stronger, every second. Omni-Man's eyes narrowed, unwavering. Then we survive long enough for someone even stronger to arrive. Above the battlefield, Cell's aura ignited fully, a perfect emerald sphere of lethal energy. Omni-Man met his gaze, fists ready. Mark hovered beside him, battered but determined. The final phase of this battle was about to erupt. The air above Chicago vibrated like a bell struck by a god. Fires hissed as buildings crumbled under shockwaves, glass cascading like deadly rain. The guardians of the globe barely held their positions, their bodies trembling from exhaustion. The city itself seemed to quake in anticipation of the next strike. Cell hovered above the shattered streets, emerald aura flaring like a living sun. Every pulse radiated adaptive intelligence, calculating, analyzing, evolving. His eyes scanned the battered guardians. "You persist," he murmured, "but persistence without adaptation is irrelevant." Mark gritted his teeth. "We're not giving up." He charged first, moving faster than thought, fists slamming into Cell with planet-shattering force. Concrete and steel exploded beneath the impact. Each strike sent tremors rolling through the city, ripping up asphalt and sending shards flying into the sky. Cell sidestepped effortlessly, eyes narrowing with cold amusement. A single flick of his tail sends Mark spiraling into a half-collapsed skyscraper. Dust, smoke and fire consume the area as Mark emerges, coughing but determined. Atom Eve hovers above, pink energy spiraling like a miniature galaxy around her hands. She releases a concentrated molecular beam. The pink light arcs through the skyline, engulfing Cell completely. For a tense moment, the city holds its breath. When the glow fades, Cell stands unscathed in a molten crater. His armor is cracked, but the bioorganic plating reconstructs itself instantly. "Excellent," he whispers. "You nearly destroyed me. Now it is my turn." From the clouds, a red and white blur crashes downward. Omni-Man. Nolan lands between Cell and his son, fists clenched, aura flaring with Viltrumite power. "This ends now," he says, voice cold, unyielding. Cell tilts his head, analyzing. The apex predator. How delightful. They collide midair. A shockwave flattens city blocks for miles. Each strike is precise, devastating. Omni-Man's fists smash through Cell's regenerative armor, but every blow is met with instant adaptation. Cell counters with brutal efficiency. Palm strikes, elbow strikes, even bio-enhanced tail lashes that send Omni-Man skidding through the sky. Mark joins again, dodging debris and strikes, landing a fist against Cell's chest. The bio-armor cracks, but Cell barely notices. He fires back a concentrated energy pulse, catching Mark off guard. The impact sends Mark crashing into a skyscraper, the building shattering into a cascade of steel and glass. Rex, Splode, and Monster Girl attempt coordinated attacks. Explosives detonate around Cell. Monster Girl's fists slam into his chest, but Cell is faster. He spins, generating a concussive shockwave that vaporizes Rex's explosives mid-air and hurls Monster Girl like a missile. Robot hovers, calculating. Energy output exceeds all prior models. Projected outcome, city-wide annihilation within minutes if left unchecked. Plasma beams fire from every drone, converging on Cell, only to disintegrate in sparks against his green bioarmor. Cell smiles. Predictable. Atom Eve channels all her energy, forming a massive pink sphere. She launches it, directed at the city's epicenter. The beam rips through skyscrapers, obliterating streets, vaporizing concrete and metal. For a moment, the world is consumed in pink radiance. Cell emerges from the glowing devastation, body undamaged, aura flaring brighter than ever. Fascinating, he says softly. Matter manipulation, subatomic control, incredible. Omni-Man launches forward again. Their collision tears the air apart. Buildings collapse. Streets split. Fires spread like wildfire. Every punch sends shockwaves that topple towers. The combined force threatens to rip Chicago from the map entirely. Cell laughs, a cold, echoing sound that resonates through the rubble. Now, we escalate. The emerald aura expands violently, stretching hundreds of meters. The ground shakes, fissures snake across streets, and the sky distorts as energy pushes against the atmosphere. The Guardians are thrown back, barely maintaining flight. Mark struggles to rise. He's evolving faster than we can react. Omni-Man's jaw tightens. Then we survive long enough for the next move. Cell's eyes lock on Mark. You will be useful. He vanishes in an instant. A green streak crosses the sky. Before Mark can respond, the ground beneath him erupts violently, sending molten concrete skyward. Cell emerges from the crater, fully recovered, bio-armor shimmering in perfect emerald perfection. From above, Omni-Man charges again, fists aimed at Cell's head. Their collision creates a hurricane of energy that flattens the remaining blocks. Sparks fly, air ignites, and molten glass rains down like fire. Cell grins, aura pulsating like a living heartbeat. Perfection, evolution, adaptation, and now assimilation. Mark hovers, watching terror and determination warring within him. We can't let him win. The camera pans wide across the ruined city. Fires rage across miles, smoke coils into the sky, and the combined energy of two apex predators threatens to tear the planet apart. And far above, unknown to anyone, a faint ripple of energy begins to pulse from orbit, the first hint that someone, or something, else has arrived. The sky above Chicago had become a storm of fire, smoke, and energy. Every street was cracked, every building hollowed, every inch of the city trembling beneath the pressure of the two apex predators locked in battle. Cell hovered above the chaos, emerald aura pulsating like a heartbeat, eyes scanning every move with deadly precision. Omni-Man charged, faster than sound, fists striking in a barrage meant to end this. Each punch shook the city's foundations. Cell absorbed, adapted, countered. Every blow was met with perfect parrying, every movement calculated. The energy in the air was palpable, thick enough to choke. Mark hovered beside his father, watching, analyzing. He's learning faster than I've ever seen. Of course, Omni-Man growled, unleashing a spinning uppercut that cracked the remains of a high-rise. He isn't just powerful, he's dangerous. Cell's laugh echoed across the city. Dangerous? No, I am evolution incarnate. He extended a hand. A beam of green energy lashed outward, slicing through streets, sending cars and debris flying like toys. The force of it twisted the air itself, vaporizing anything it touched. Atom Eve screamed and fired a massive molecular sphere. The light enveloped Cell completely, turning the area into a blinding pink storm. For a moment, the world seemed still. Then the energy dispersed, and Cell stood, armor repaired, unflinching, smiling faintly. You nearly destroyed me, he said, voice low, reverent even. How fascinating. Omni-Man roared and charged again. They collided mid-air, sending shockwaves that shattered blocks for miles. Energy arcs crackled across the sky, igniting fires and toppling what remained of the city. The Guardians struggled to maintain formation, many battered and bloodied, their attacks barely grazing Cell. Mark's fists struck again and again, each punch more desperate than the last. Cell countered, driving him through several crumbling skyscrapers. The impact shook the ground for blocks. Blood streaked Mark's face, his suit in tatters. Cell's tail whipped around, hurling Rex-Splode and Monster Girl into distant debris fields. Robot fired plasma beams in rapid succession, only for them to be absorbed and vaporized in mid-air. Duplicate tried to overwhelm him with dozens of copies which evaporated instantly from a single shockwave. Cell's grin widened. Adaptation, assimilation, perfection. His aura flared, expanding hundreds of meters. Buildings buckled under the pressure, streets cracked like brittle porcelain. Omni-Man's fists struck again, sending Cell hurtling through the sky, smashing into the rubble of a skyscraper. Cell emerged, partially damaged, bioarmor regenerating at impossible speed. His aura intensified, shifting from emerald to a darker, almost crimson green. Mark gasped. He's evolving. On the spot. Cell's eyes locked onto Omni-Man. You are strong, but all strength is temporary, and all strength is mine to understand. He vanished. A green streak crossed the sky, then he reappeared behind Omni-Man, palms striking his chest. The force sent the Viltrumite warrior hurtling through half a city block. The ground exploded beneath him, molten asphalt and debris raining outward. Omni-Man staggered to his feet, breathing hard. I've fought stronger, he muttered, but none like this. Cell's aura expanded again, sharper, brighter. Correct, I am. Evolution perfected. He slammed both palms into the ground, sending a wave of energy across several blocks. Fires ignited, streets ruptured, and buildings collapsed as if caught under a cosmic hammer. Mark floated above, shaking his head. If he keeps this up, the city won't survive another minute. Cell laughed, a sound that chilled the soul. No, the planet will not survive, and then I will move on. The Guardians of the Globe regrouped as best they could. Atom Eve floated, exhausted, but determined. We have to stop him, she whispered, before he finishes adapting. Omni-Man looked down at his son. We survive for long enough all to strike together. Cell's gaze swept over them all. Together, he murmured. You are amusing, but irrelevant. Then the pulse of energy began, a faint green glow from deep beneath the city. The streets themselves seemed to hum. Cell's eyes narrowed. Ah, the final piece. Mark's heart skipped. He's preparing something bigger. Omni-Man's jaw tightened. And we're right in the middle of it. Cell hovered above the chaos, aura blazing, absorbing, adapting. Omni-Man and Mark prepared themselves. Atom Eve, Rex, Monster Girl, Robot, Duplicate, all bracing for the storm. The city held its breath. Cell raised both arms. The emerald aura expanded like a living sun. The air thickened, vibrating with energy. Now evolution continues, Cell whispered. And the ground beneath Chicago began to crack, green energy erupting like molten veins of power. The stage was set. The final confrontation of adaptability versus raw Viltrumite might of perfect evolution against relentless heroism was about to ignite. The sky over Chicago was a canvas of fire, smoke, and violent green light. Every street trembled. Every building groaned under the strain of the shock waves. The city's skeleton had become a battlefield. Cell hovered at the epicenter, emerald aura radiating outward impulses like a heartbeat of a god. His bio-armor gleamed with perfection, every scar from the previous encounters now repaired and refined. He had evolved mid-battle. Below, Omni-Man floated, eyes narrowed. Mark hovered beside him, battered, bruised, but unyielding. The Guardians of the Globe were scattered, many hiding behind fractured structures, but watching, waiting, hoping. Cell's gaze swept across them. I have learned much, he whispered. Strength, speed, durability, adaptation. But you, Viltrumite, you are the pinnacle. You will teach me the final lesson. Omni-Man's fists clenched. I've fought gods. I've conquered worlds. You'll learn. You are not invincible. Cell smiled, a cruel, calculating smile. We shall see. Chicago burned like a crucible. Skyscrapers twisted into molten spikes. Streets cracked into rivers of molten concrete, and the sky glowed an eerie mix of green and pink. Cell hovered at the epicenter, aura flaring violently, pulsing with the energy of the city itself. Every heartbeat sent shockwaves across miles. His bio-armor glistened, now shimmering with emerald veins brighter than ever. His eyes scanned the battlefield with cold precision. Energy, absorbed. Adaptation, complete. Evolution, inevitable. Mark hovered nearby, battered, bloodied, suit torn. He's feeding, faster than we can hit him. His fists glowed faintly with energy, each punch aimed to test the limits of Cell's adaptation. Omni-Man flew beside him, jaw tight, aura flaring red. Then we push harder, no holding back. Cell slammed both palms into the ground. A wave of energy rippled outward, flattening city blocks in every direction. Fires roared higher, debris rained down like deadly rain. Vehicles were vaporized mid-air. From the rubble, Monster Girl and Rex Splode struggled to stand. Monster Girl's fists enlarged, smashing into a street as she attempted to strike Cell. He flicked a finger, sending a concussive shockwave that threw her through half a district. Rex hurled explosives from above, which disintegrated in mid-air against Cell's aura. Atom Eve's eyes burned with determination. She floated higher, gathering a massive pink molecular sphere, her hands glowing like twin stars. "This ends now," she screamed. The energy spiraled around her, forming a tornado of molecular devastation. She fired it directly at Cell. The pink light engulfed him. For a moment the city was bathed in white brilliance. Then Cell emerged. Aura flaring brighter than ever, bio-armor repaired instantly, veins glowing emerald. "Impressive," he whispered, "but insufficient." Omni-Man charged, fists crackling with raw Viltrumite power. His strike smashed against Cell's chest, sending shockwaves that ripped across several city blocks. Cell countered with brutal efficiency, palm strikes, tail lashes, elbow strikes, all perfectly timed, all deadly. Mark joined, launching himself at Cell mid-air. Their collision shattered a high-rise, sending debris cascading in every direction. Cell absorbed the momentum, spinning away effortlessly. He grabbed Mark mid-flight, slamming him into a molten street below. The impact sent tremors that buckled nearby buildings. Cell's aura flared outward, expanding hundreds of meters. Streets cracked like brittle glass, fires erupted in waves, and skyscrapers bent under the sheer force of his power. He laughed, a cold, echoing sound. This is perfection, evolution completed. Chicago was unrecognizable, and fires roared like wild beasts. Skyscrapers twisted into molten skeletons, and streets cracked into rivers of green-hot fissures. The sky was streaked with emerald light and pink energy from Atom Eve's last attack. Smoke coiled like serpents, carrying the acrid scent of molten steel and burning concrete. Cell hovered above the devastation, emerald aura now roaring like a living entity. Veins of energy crawled across his bio-armor, each pulse resonating with power drawn from the city itself. "Energy, adaptation, evolution, complete," he whispered. "And now, perfect." Mark floated nearby, battered and bloodied, suit ripped and smeared with grime. "He's getting stronger, faster than ever," he shouted, fists glowing faintly with residual energy. Omni-Man hovered beside him, jaw tight, aura flaring a blinding red. "Then we push harder. No holding back," he said, his voice cold and determined. The Guardians of the Globe tried to regroup. Monster Girl coughed, bloody and bruised, fists enlarged. Rex Splode's arms trembled as he hurled explosives. Duplicate split into dozens of copies. Atom Eve floated higher, her pink molecular energy forming a luminous tornado above the city. Robot hovered, analyzing, but every move, every strike, they were met with Cell's flawless adaptation. Cell slammed both palms into the molten streets. The ground exploded outward in emerald light, fissures opening across miles. Concrete and asphalt melted into rivers of green, hot energy. Buildings collapsed, turned to molten rubble, and the very air trembled under the force. "I will consume this planet," Cell said softly, his voice reverberating like thunder. "Absorption, evolution, perfection." The green light expanded, stretching hundreds of meters into the sky, a column of raw energy feeding directly into Cell. He closed his eyes, aura flaring violently, veins of energy crawling across the city like lightning. Sparks of emerald light danced and crackled, coiling around him like living serpents. Mark's eyes widened. "He's feeding on the city itself!" Omni-Man's jaw tightened. "Then we stop him, or we all die." T. Omni-Man surged forward, fists blazing with raw Viltrumite might. He struck Cell mid-air, sending shockwaves that shattered remaining streets and buildings. Every punch Cell received was adapted and countered. Palm strikes, tail lashes, elbow strikes, all were perfectly calculated. Mark joined mid-air, striking Cell's side with desperation and raw energy. The impact cracked Cell's bioarmor, but he absorbed the force, spinning away effortlessly. Then he grabbed Mark mid-flight and hurled him into the molten street below. The impact buckled the ground for blocks. Atom Eve launched her final molecular sphere, a swirling pink star, engulfing Cell entirely. The city seemed to disappear in blinding white light. When the light faded, Cell stood, aura pulsing brighter than ever. His bioarmor shimmered, veins glowing emerald. "Excellent, you almost destroyed me," he whispered. Cell's aura exploded outward violently, stretching across miles. Streets cracked, buildings bent, and molten green energy snaked through the city. Fires roared higher, igniting debris. Vehicles and rubble lifted into the air, suspended by the energy field around him. Omni-Man and Mark surged forward together, desperate to strike. They collided with Cell mid-air, fists smashing against the bioarmor. Shockwaves flattened remaining blocks, sending molten debris flying. Cell countered, absorbing the momentum, striking back with devastating precision. Monster Girl, Rex, Duplicate, Robot, and Atom Eve attempted coordinated strikes. Each attack was absorbed, deflected, or evaporated. Cell's smile widened. Predictable, primitive, and yet amusing. Mark's voice cracked.
"If he keeps absorbing, he'll be unstoppable, planet level, maybe universal level." Omni-Man's jaw tightened. "Then we fight. Anyway." Cell's eyes glinted. "Good. Struggle. I will savor it." Green energy pulsed from beneath the city, veins snaking upward, feeding into Cell's body. The ground shuddered, molten rivers spilling outward. Fires ignited across miles. Cell hovered at the apex of his energy column. His aura now stretched hundreds of meters in every direction. Sparks of energy arced across the skyline. The city screamed as molten veins spread through streets, buildings, and infrastructure. Omni-Man and Mark prepared to strike with every ounce of their power. Atom Eve, Monster Girl, Rex, Duplicator, and Robot braced themselves for the inevitable. Every attack, every sacrifice, a desperate gamble against the apex predator before them. Cell's laughter echoed, a promise of total annihilation. "Now!" Evolution is complete. The energy around him exploded outward, engulfing the skyline. Chicago teetered on the edge of total destruction. Omni-Man's fists glowed with raw Viltrumite might. Mark's energy flared violently. The final confrontation of apex predator versus ultimate heroism was about to ignite. Cell hovered, absorbing residual energy from the city. Emerald veins snaked across his body, pulsing like living lightning. Strength, speed, adaptation, energy, all mine. Mark's fists glowed brighter. We have to stop him before it's too late. Omni-Man's jaw tightened. Then we give everything we have. He surged forward, fists ready to strike with full force. Cell met him mid-air. Their collision created a shockwave that flattened the remaining streets, shattered buildings, and ignited fires across the horizon. Atom Eve, Monster Girl, Rex, Duplicate, and Robot regrouped as best they could, but every attack was met with Cell's flawless adaptation. Each of them knew they were no longer facing a villain. They were facing a perfect predator, an apex predator of evolution itself. Cell's aura flared violently again, brighter, more intense. His voice cut across the battlefield. The planet's energy, mine! Your efforts, futile. Adaptation is inevitable. Mark floated above, trembling. If he keeps absorbing, he'll be unstoppable. Planet level, maybe universal level. Omni-Man's eyes narrowed. Then we fight. Anyway. Cell's gaze flicked between them, a glint of anticipation in his eyes. Good. Struggle. I will savor it. A green pulse erupted from beneath the city, the energy converging into Cell's body. The city itself seemed alive, screaming as molten green veins spread through every street, building, and structure. The Guardians braced themselves. Omni-Man and Mark floated in tandem, fists blazing, ready to strike the apex predator in the ultimate confrontation. Cell's laugh echoed, chilling, triumphant, promising complete annihilation if left unchecked. With a motion as fluid as water, Cell plunged toward the city. Omni-Man met him mid-air, fists colliding in a shockwave that vaporized entire blocks. Green and red energy arcs tore the skyline apart. Streets twisted beneath their feet. Fires roared higher, smoke coiling into the sky like serpents. Mark surged after them, trying to assist. He's learning too fast, he screamed, striking with everything he had. His punches cracked the air like thunder, but Cell shifted, dodging effortlessly. Every strike was predicted countered or absorbed. Cell extended a hand. The ground beneath them erupted in green energy veins, carving molten channels through the city. The Guardians tried to respond. Atom Eve fired molecular beams, Rex Splode hurled explosives. Monster Girl charged, but Cell's aura pushed back with pure force. He moved faster than anyone could track, a blur of perfect motion. One swipe of his tail shattered half a city block. A single punch sent a fire hydrant spinning across the horizon like a missile. Robots' drones fired relentlessly. Plasma beams burned through streets and rubble, but each one was caught, vaporized, or deflected. Cell's smile widened. Predictable, primitive, effective, but inadequate. Cell hovered, aura expanding, eyes narrowing. It is time to evolve beyond flesh, beyond this planet. He slammed both palms into the cracked streets. A green wave erupted outward, sweeping across the ruins. Concrete melted, asphalt twisted, and buildings crumbled like paper. The energy surged upward, forming a column of emerald light stretching into the stratosphere. Cell's body glowed brighter, his bio-armor pulsating. He inhaled slowly, absorbing the raw energy of the city itself. Sparks of emerald light coiled around him like living serpents. Mark's eyes widened. He's feeding on the city's energy. Omni-Man's jaw tightened. That could destroy everything. We have to stop him before he becomes unstoppable. Cell's aura flared violently. Buildings shattered into clouds of molten debris. Streets buckled like brittle glass. Fires erupted across miles, igniting skyscrapers and turning the horizon into a sea of orange and green. Omni-Man launched himself at full speed. Every punch he struck was met with Cell's adaptive brilliance. He countered, absorbed, and returned blows with precision. The air around them detonated in shockwaves, tearing the sky apart. Mark, bloodied, surged forward again, landing a punch on Cell's side. The armor cracked slightly. Cell's eyes flickered with intrigue. Ah, hybrid durability. Very amusing. He countered with a swift strike, sending Mark crashing through a half-collapsed skyscraper. Atom Eve unleashed her full power. The sky lit up pink as her molecular sphere enveloped Cell. For a moment, everything went white. When the light faded, Cell emerged, aura pulsating violently, fully healed. "Excellent," he whispered. "You almost erased me." The Guardians tried to regroup, but Cell's aura expanded further, pushing them back. His energy now combined raw physical power with absorption, adaptation, and now city-level energy manipulation. Every second increased his strength exponentially. Mark floated, horrified. If he keeps this up, he'll be stronger than anything we've ever faced. Omni-Man clenched his fists. "Then we fight until the end. For Earth, for humanity." Cell's eyes glinted. "For evolution." The horizon cracked. Molten green light surged across the skyline. The city groaned. Energy arcs twisted across the sky, igniting fires. And far above, in orbit, something faint stirred, a presence, watching, waiting, calculating. Cell's laughter echoed across the ruined city, a promise of destruction, adaptation, and unstoppable evolution. Chicago was no longer a city. It was a war-torn wasteland. Molten rivers carving through streets, skyscrapers twisted into skeletal frames, fires roaring higher than ever. The sky above churned with green and pink energy, a storm of Cell's emerald aura and Atom Eve's residual power. Every inch of the battlefield quivered under the strain of apocalyptic force. Cell hovered above the chaos, emerald energy pulsating violently, bioarmor glinting like living metal. The veins of energy crawling across his body coiled outward, feeding on the city itself. Energy, adaptation, evolution, complete, he whispered. Perfection, inevitable. Mark floated nearby, battered, bloodied, fists glowing with the last reserves of his strength. "He's beyond anything we've faced." Omni-Man's eyes narrowed, aura blazing red. "Then we push past fear, or we all die." Cell slammed both hands into the cracked streets. The ground erupted in a wave of emerald energy. Buildings crumbled, streets twisted, molten rivers erupted, and the city screamed as if alive. Sparks of green, hot energy coiled outward like serpents, wrapping around every remaining Guardian. He hovered above, absorbing every fragment of energy, his aura now stretching kilometers into the sky. Every pulse increased his strength exponentially. Atom Eve's molecular beam and Rex's explosives barely dented his armor. Monster Girl's attacks were redirected by concussive waves. Duplicate's copies evaporated instantly. Robot's drones were torn apart mid-flight. Cell's grin widened. All energy, mine. All strength, mine. Evolution, perfect. Omni-Man surged forward, fists blazing, striking Cell mid-air. Shockwaves tore through the ruins, leveling blocks and igniting more fires. Every punch Cell received was absorbed and analyzed. He countered with blinding speed, palm strikes, tail lashes, spinning elbow strikes, all calculated with lethal precision.
Mark joined mid-air, desperation fueling him. He slammed into Cell's side with every ounce of energy he could muster. The bio-armor cracked slightly. Cell smirked. Hybrid, durability, intriguing. He grabbed Mark mid-flight, hurling him into molten rubble. The impact sent tremors that buckled surrounding structures. Atom Eve unleashed her full energy pink, spiraling around her hands, a miniature sun. She fired it at Cell. For a moment the world was blinding light, then it faded, and Cell emerged, fully healed, aura pulsing brighter. "Impressive," he whispered, "but insufficient." Cell's aura exploded outward. Streets cracked further, molten rivers expanded, buildings collapsed entirely. Sparks of green energy arced through the air, igniting debris and vaporizing metal. Fires spread faster than the eye could track. Omni-Man and Mark flew in tandem, fists blazing, landing blows that shattered concrete and steel. Cell countered every attack. Every movement was prediction, adaptation, and retaliation. Monster Girl charged, Rex hurled explosives, Atom Eve unleashed molecular pulses. Duplicate multiplied, but Cell absorbed, deflected, and vaporized everything. His laughter echoed across the battlefield. Predictable, primitive, and yet amusing. Mark's voice cracked. "If he keeps absorbing, he'll be unstoppable, planet level, maybe more." Omni-Man clenched his fists. "Then we fight. Anyway." Green energy pulsed violently from beneath the city, feeding directly into Cell. His aura stretched kilometers. The ground quaked, fires roared, buildings bent and twisted like paper under the sheer force. The city itself seemed to scream in agony. Cell hovered at the apex, bio-armor glowing, veins of energy crawling across his body like living lightning. "Now, evolution is complete," he whispered, "and you will witness perfection." Mark glared at him, fists burning with energy. "We won't let you win." Omni-Man's aura flared brighter. "For Earth, for humanity, for everyone." Cell's laughter boomed, shaking the city to its core. The stage was set for the ultimate clash. Apex Predator versus Viltrumite, hybrid hero, and the remnants of a world teetering on total annihilation. The city groaned as if it had a soul. Molten green energy licked the shattered streets. Skyscrapers twisted like molten metal, and fires roared higher than ever. Chicago was no longer a city. It was a crucible, a battlefield on the edge of annihilation. Cell hovered above the devastation, emerald aura flaring violently. Veins of energy crawled over his bio-armor like living lightning, pulsing with power drawn from the city itself. Every heartbeat sent shockwaves across miles. He had fully absorbed the city's energy. Every attack, every strike, every destructive force had fed him. He had evolved into something far beyond even his original, perfect form. Mark floated nearby, battered and bloodied, fists glowing with the last of his energy. "He's unstoppable," he muttered, voice strained. Omni-Man hovered beside him, aura blazing crimson. "Then we push beyond limits, or nothing survives." Cell raised both arms, emerald light coiling around him like a living storm. The air itself ignited. Green-hot energy pulsed outward, obliterating remaining streets, buildings, and debris. The ground buckled under the strain. The molten rivers of concrete glowed brighter as Cell absorbed everything in his path. "This planet and its energy, mine," Cell whispered, voice echoing like a storm. "Evolution, perfected." He expanded further, aura now stretching kilometers, the sheer force warping the horizon. Sparks of green lightning arced into the clouds, igniting the remaining smoke and debris. Every Guardian, battered and exhausted, struggled to maintain flight as Cell's power radiated outward. Atom Eve fired a final molecular beam, her hands glowing like twin suns. Rex explode hurled his last explosives. Monster Girl's fists collided with the ground in desperation. Duplicate multiplied endlessly. Robot fired every remaining plasma cannon, but Cell absorbed, deflected, vaporized every attack with effortless precision. Omni-Man surged forward, fists blazing with Viltrumite might, striking Cell mid-air. Shockwaves tore across the ruins, flattening blocks, igniting fires and shaking molten streets. Every punch was countered, adapted, and returned with devastating precision. Mark joined, slamming into Cell's side. Bioarmor cracked slightly. Cell's eyes glinted with intrigue. Hybrid, durability, fascinating. He grabbed Mark mid-flight and hurled him into molten rubble, shaking the city for miles. Omni-Man's jaw tightened. We push or we die. The collision of Viltrumite and bioengineered monster sent shockwaves that leveled the remaining buildings. Green and red energy arcs ripped across the skyline, lighting the smoke-filled sky. Cell slammed into the ground. Emerald energy erupted in every direction, twisting streets into molten rivers, collapsing buildings and igniting entire blocks. Sparks flew like deadly fireworks. Fires roared, debris floated in the energy currents. The city itself seemed alive with screaming agony. Mark's fists burned brighter than ever. We have to stop him before he becomes unstoppable. Omni-Man's aura flared with raw power. Then we fight anyway. Cell's laughter echoed, chilling, triumphant. Evolution, perfect. Adaptation, inevitable. You, insignificant. The green energy column pulsed higher, feeding Cell from the city's molten veins. Chicago was on the brink of complete annihilation. Atom Eve, Monster Girl, Rex, Duplicate, and Robot regrouped as best they could. Exhausted, bloodied, and battered, they launched everything at him. Molecular beams, explosive volleys, massive strikes. Cell absorbed, adapted, countered, and radiated energy outward, pushing them back violently. Sparks of emerald light tore through the streets, igniting every remaining fragment of debris. Mark and Omni-Man prepared themselves for the ultimate strike. Fists glowing, aura flaring beyond normal limits, they soared toward Cell together. Every strike was a desperate gamble against the apex predator who had become the embodiment of evolution itself. Cell's eyes glinted with cruel anticipation. Now, the final lesson begins. The ground shook. The air ignited. Fires roared. The city teetered on total annihilation. The remnants of Chicago were a cratered, molten wasteland. Streets twisted into jagged scars, skyscrapers reduced to skeletal frames, and rivers of molten debris flowing like veins through the city. The air crackled with energy. Emerald arcs from Cell, pink flares from Atom Eve, and the raw red aura of Omni-Man. Every breath carried ash and the metallic tang of destruction. Cell hovered above the devastation, now more terrifying than ever. His emerald aura flared violently, stretching kilometers into the sky. Veins of energy snaked over his bioarmor, pulsing with the absorbed power of the city itself. Every heartbeat sent seismic shockwaves across the battlefield. This planet, all its energy, mine, Cell murmured, his voice low and resonant, vibrating through the ruins. Evolution, complete. Mark floated beside Omni-Man, battered, suit torn, fists glowing faintly with energy. He's reached a level we've never faced. Omni-Man's jaw tightened, aura blazing brighter. Then we push beyond our limits. If we falter, nothing survives. Cell slammed both palms into the cracked, molten streets. The ground exploded outward in emerald energy. Buildings collapsed instantly, twisted steel and concrete melted into rivers of molten metal. Green, hot veins of energy crawled across the landscape like living fire, consuming anything in their path. Monster Girl charged, fists massive, trying to land a blow. Rex hurled explosives. duplicate, multiplied endlessly. Atom Eve released a massive pink molecular beam. Robot fired every plasma cannon simultaneously. Cell absorbed, deflected, and vaporized every attack. Sparks of emerald lightning arced into the sky, igniting molten debris. Fires roared higher, consuming what remained of the city. His aura pulsed outward, each expansion a wave of destructive force. "This is perfection," Cell whispered, voice echoing across miles. "Adaptation. Unstoppable. Inevitable." Omni-Man surged forward, fists blazing, striking Cell mid-air. Shockwaves ripped through the ruins, flattening blocks, igniting molten streets, and hurling debris skyward. Each punch Cell received was adapted and countered with perfect precision. Mark joined mid-flight, slamming into Cell's side with every ounce of energy he had left. Bioarmor cracked slightly. Cell's eyes glinted with fascination. Hybrid durability. Exquisite. He grabbed Mark and hurled him into a molten river, sending tremors across miles. Atom Eve's pink energy flared, enveloping Cell entirely. For a moment the world vanished in blinding white light. When the glow faded, Cell hovered, fully regenerated, aura pulsing with unstoppable energy. "Excellent, but insufficient," he whispered, a cruel smile spreading. Cell's emerald aura exploded outward, stretching across miles. Streets buckled, molten rivers expanded, buildings collapsed, and sparks of energy arced into the sky like deadly lightning. Fires raged uncontrollably. Mark's fists burned brighter. If he keeps this up, he could destroy the planet. Omni-Man's aura flared, raw Viltrumite energy blazing. "Then we fight. Anyway." Cell laughed, a sound that resonated like a storm across the cratered city. "Evolution. Perfected. You? Insignificant." Green energy pulsed from the ground, feeding Cell further, veins spreading into the horizon. The city was on the brink of complete annihilation. The Guardians launched their final coordinated assault. Atom Eve's molecular beams spiraled into a massive tornado. Rex detonated explosives that tore streets apart. Monster Girl charged with colossal force. Duplicate multiplied in a last attempt to overwhelm. Robot fired every plasma cannon. Cell absorbed, countered, and radiated energy outward. Sparks of emerald light ripped through the battlefield. Fires ignited instantly. Debris floated and evaporated in green-hot arcs. Mark and Omni-Man prepared the ultimate strike. Fists blazing, aura flaring beyond normal limits, they charged in tandem. Every strike, every maneuver was a desperate gamble against the apex predator who had become the embodiment of evolution itself. Cell's eyes gleamed. Now, the final lesson begins. The air ignited, the ground shook, and the horizon cracked. Chicago teetered on total annihilation. The battle had reached its ultimate crescendo. The remnants of Chicago were a cratered molten wasteland. Streets twisted into jagged scars, skyscrapers reduced to skeletal frames, and rivers of molten debris flowing like veins through the city. The air crackled with energy, emerald arcs from Cell, pink flares from Atom Eve, and the raw red aura of Omni-Man. Every breath carried ash and the metallic tang of destruction. Cell hovered above the devastation, now more terrifying than ever. His emerald aura flared violently, stretching kilometers into the sky. Veins of energy snaked over his bioarmor, pulsing with the absorbed power of the city itself. Every heartbeat sent seismic shockwaves across the battlefield. "This planet, all its energy, mine," Cell murmured, his voice low and resonant, vibrating through the ruins. "Evolution complete?" Mark floated beside Omni-Man, battered, suit torn, fists glowing faintly with energy. "He's reached a level we've never faced. Omni-Man's jaw tightened, aura blazing brighter. Then we push beyond our limit, and if we falter, nothing survives. Cell slammed both palms into the cracked, molten streets. The ground exploded outward in emerald energy. Buildings collapsed instantly. Twisted steel and concrete melted into rivers of molten metal. Green, hot veins of energy crawled across the landscape like living fire, consuming anything in their path. Monster Girl charged, fists massive, trying to land a blow. Rex hurled explosives. Duplicate multiplied endlessly. Atom Eve released a massive pink molecular beam. Robot fired every plasma cannon simultaneously. Cell absorbed, deflected, and vaporized every attack. Sparks of emerald lightning arced into the sky, igniting molten debris. Fires roared higher, consuming what remained of the city. His aura pulsed outward, each expansion a wave of destructive force. "This is perfection," Cell whispered, voice echoing across miles. "Adaptation. Unstoppable. Inevitable." Omni-Man surged forward, fists blazing, striking Cell mid-air. Shockwaves ripped through the ruins, flattening blocks, igniting molten streets, and hurling debris skyward. Each punch Cell received was adapted and countered with perfect precision. Mark joined mid-flight, slamming into Cell's side with every ounce of energy he had left. Bioarmor cracked slightly. Cell's eyes glinted with fascination. Hybrid durability, exquisite. He grabbed Mark and hurled him into a molten river, sending tremors across miles. Atom Eve's pink energy flared, enveloping Cell entirely. For a moment, the world vanished in blinding white light. When the glow faded, Cell hovered, fully regenerated, aura pulsing with unstoppable energy. "Excellent, but insufficient," he whispered, a cruel smile spreading. Cell's emerald aura exploded outward, stretching across miles. Streets buckled, molten rivers expanded, buildings collapsed, and sparks of energy arced into the sky like deadly lightning. Fires raged uncontrollably. Mark's fists burned brighter. If he keeps this up, he could destroy the planet. Omni-Man's aura flared, raw Viltrumite energy blazing. "Then we fight, anyway." Cell laughed, a sound that resonated like a storm across the cratered city. "Evolution. Perfected. You. Insignificant." Green energy pulsed from the ground, feeding Cell further, veins spreading into the horizon. The city was on the brink of complete annihilation. The Guardians launched their final coordinated assault. Atom Eve's molecular beams spiraled into a massive tornado. Rex detonated explosives that tore streets apart. Monster Girl charged with colossal force. Duplicate multiplied in a last attempt to overwhelm. Robot fired every plasma cannon. Cell absorbed, countered, and radiated energy outward. Sparks of emerald light ripped through the battlefield. Fires ignited instantly. Debris floated and evaporated in green-hot arcs. Mark and Omni-Man prepared the ultimate strike. Fists blazing, aura flaring beyond normal limits, they charged in tandem. Every strike, every maneuver, was a desperate gamble against the apex predator, who had become the embodiment of evolution itself. Cell's eyes gleamed. Now, the final lesson begins. The air ignited, the ground shook, and the horizon cracked. Chicago teetered on total annihilation. The battle had reached its ultimate crescendo. The horizon burned green and red. Chicago, a molten wasteland, groaned beneath the strain of unchecked power. Skyscrapers were skeletal frames, streets rivers of molten debris, and the sky cracked with arcs of emerald and red energy. Sparks of lightning danced across the clouds, igniting what little remained of the city. Cell hovered at the apex, aura now spanning kilometers, pulsing like a heartbeat of the planet itself. Veins of green energy crawled across his bio-armor, alive, feeding on the remaining energy of the city. Every movement sent shockwaves across miles. Every breath vibrated the air with raw, destructive force. Energy, perfection, adaptation, inevitable. Cell whispered. And now, nothing can resist me? Mark floated beside Omni-Man, battered and bloodied. He's reached a level we can barely comprehend, he muttered, fists glowing faintly with energy. Omni-Man's eyes narrowed, aura flaring crimson. Then we push past limits. We have no other choice. Cell slammed both palms into the molten streets. A massive shockwave erupted, leveling entire districts instantly. Molten rivers surged outward, consuming what remained. Sparks of emerald lightning shot skyward, arcs lancing across the horizon. Buildings buckled like paper. Fires roared uncontrollably, whipping the air into violent currents. Monster Girl charged, fists enlarged beyond comprehension, aiming to strike. Rex hurled his final explosives. Duplicate multiplied endlessly. Atom Eve unleashed a colossal molecular beam, and Robot fired every remaining plasma cannon. Cell absorbed, deflected, and vaporized every attack with effortless precision. His aura expanded further, stretching beyond the horizon. Every pulse made him stronger. Every attack was adaptation. He had become a predator perfected by battle itself. This is evolution, perfected, Cell whispered, and you are merely insects. Omni-Man surged forward, fists blazing with Viltrumite might. Shockwaves flattened streets, ignited molten rivers, and hurled debris skyward. Each strike Cell received was absorbed, analyzed, and countered with lethal efficiency. Mark slammed into Cell's side mid-air. The bio-armor cracked slightly. Cell's eyes glinted with fascination. Hybrid durability. Exquisite. He hurled Mark into molten rubble, sending tremors miles away. Omni-Man and Mark then synchronized. Red and faint green aura flaring in tandem, they struck Cell with full force. Shockwaves obliterated remaining streets. Sparks of energy tore the horizon apart. Cell countered, but the combined Viltrumite assault shook him for the first time. He staggered slightly, emerald energy flaring violently. Interesting, this challenge excites me. Atom Eve, Monster Girl, Rex, Duplicate, and Robot launched everything left in a coordinated strike. Molecular tornadoes, colossal fists, massive explosions, infinite copies, and plasma beams collided with Cell from every angle. Cell absorbed, adapted, and radiated energy outward. Sparks of green lightning tore through the battlefield. Fires roared higher, debris floated, molten shards vaporized instantly. The Guardians were thrown back, battered but not broken. Mark's fists glowed brighter than ever. Omni-Man, now! Omni-Man roared, aura blazing, and surged at full Viltrumite speed. They collided with Cell mid-air, fists pounding in a rhythm of desperation. Shockwaves ripped across miles, leveling what little remained of the city. Green energy collided with red aura in violent arcs of light. Cell's laughter echoed, chilling and triumphant. Now, the final lesson begins. The air ignited. The ground trembled violently. The horizon cracked. Chicago teetered on the edge of total annihilation. The ultimate confrontation, apex predator versus Viltrumite might and desperate heroism, was about to erupt into cinematic, planet-shattering fury. The world trembled. Chicago was unrecognizable. Rivers of molten metal snaked through streets. Skyscrapers twisted into molten skeletons, and the sky burned green and red with energy arcs that split the clouds like lightning. Every breath carried ash, smoke, and the acrid tang of molten steel. Every heartbeat shook the city, a reminder that the apex predator hovering above had become something beyond imagination. Cell hovered at the center of the devastation, aura now spanning kilometers, pulsating like the heartbeat of a god. Veins of green energy crawled across his bio-armor, alive, feeding on the residual energy of the ruined city. Every pulse of his emerald aura shattered the ground below and ignited molten rivers into explosive eruptions. Evolution perfected, adaptation unstoppable, all energy mine, Cell whispered, voice resonating like thunder across the battlefield. And now, nothing can resist me. Mark floated beside Omni-Man, battered, bloodied, fists glowing faintly with residual energy. He's beyond anything we've ever faced. Omni-Man, Mark gasped, eyes wide. Omni-Man's jaw tightened, aura blazing crimson. Then we push past limits. If we falter, nothing survives. Cell slammed both palms into the molten streets. The impact sent shockwaves across the city, leveling remaining structures and igniting molten rivers into raging torrents. Sparks of green-hot energy leapt into the sky, coiling like serpents and slicing through the ash-filled air. The ground quaked violently, fissures splitting open, molten rocks spewing outward. Monster Girl charged with colossal force, fists massive, aiming to strike. Rex hurled his final explosives. Duplicate multiplied endlessly. Atom Eve unleashed her largest molecular beam yet. Spiraling like a miniature sun, Robot fired every cannon simultaneously. Every attack, every assault, every strike, Cell absorbed, deflected, and vaporized with effortless precision. His aura flared further, stretching beyond the horizon, bending air and igniting debris. Every pulse of energy made him stronger, faster, more lethal. He had evolved beyond any known limit. This is perfection, Cell whispered, eyes glinting with cruel anticipation. And you are merely insects. Omni-Man surged forward, fists blazing, striking Cell mid-air. Shockwaves leveled the last standing streets and buildings. Each punch Cell received was absorbed, countered, and returned with lethal accuracy. Mark slammed into Cell's side mid-flight. The bio-armor cracked slightly. Cell's eyes flickered with intrigue. Hybrid durability. Exquisite, he said, hurling Mark into a molten river. Tremors spread miles. Then Omni-Man and Mark synchronized fully, aura flaring beyond normal Viltrumite limits. They struck Cell together, fists glowing red and faint green, shockwaves shattering the remnants of the city. Sparks of energy tore across the skyline. Cell staggered for the first time, emerald aura flaring violently. Interesting, this challenge excites me, Cell whispered, a cruel smile spreading across his face. Atom, Eve, Monster Girl, Rex, Duplicate, and Robot launched their final coordinated strike. Molecular tornadoes, colossal fists, massive explosions, infinite copies, and plasma beams collided from all angles. Cell absorbed, deflected, and radiated energy outward. Sparks of emerald lightning tore the battlefield apart. Fires roared uncontrollably, molten debris floated and evaporated instantly. Mark and Omni-Man prepared their ultimate strike. Fists blazing, aura flaring beyond normal limits, they surged together toward the apex predator. Every strike was a desperate gamble, a battle for survival, a fight to save the planet. Cell's eyes glinted with cruel anticipation. Now, the final lesson begins. The air ignited, the ground shattered, the horizon cracked. The molten city teetered on the edge of total annihilation. The ultimate showdown, apex predator versus Viltrumite might, and desperate heroism, was about to erupt into cinematic, planet-shattering fury. The molten city groaned under the weight of unimaginable power. Chicago's streets were rivers of fire and green-hot molten debris, skyscrapers twisted into skeletal ruins, and the air itself shimmered from the immense energy radiating from Cell. The sky above burned in violent streaks of green and red, arcs of lightning illuminating the chaos like a hellish aurora. Cell hovered at the apex of the destruction, his aura now stretching beyond the horizon. Veins of emerald energy crawled over his bio-armor, pulsing violently as he drew the last remnants of the city into himself. He had evolved fully, perfected every adaptation, absorbed every attack, and now he was unstoppable. Energy, adaptation, evolution, perfection, complete, Cell whispered, his voice reverberating like a rolling thunderstorm. And now, nothing can resist me. Mark floated beside Omni-Man, battered, bloodied, fists glowing with the last of his energy. Omni-Man, he's beyond anything we've ever faced. Omni-Man's jaw tightened, aura blazing crimson like a star about to collapse. Then we push past every limit, or nothing survives. With a motion that split the air, Cell slammed both palms into the molten streets. The impact radiated a shockwave of emerald fire that leveled every standing block in miles. Streets cracked and twisted into molten rivers, buildings melted into streams of fire and steel, and sparks of green lightning lanced into the clouds, igniting airborne debris into instant explosions. Monster Girl charged, fists monstrous, trying to strike the apex predator. Rex hurled his final explosives. Duplicate multiplied endlessly. Atom Eve unleashed her largest molecular storm yet, a pink sun spiraling upward. Robot fired every plasma cannon in a synchronized final assault. Cell absorbed all attacks effortlessly, aura flaring further, pushing the Guardians back. Every pulse of energy made him stronger. Every strike added to his adaptation. He had become the ultimate predator, a perfect apex being, unstoppable in every sense. This is perfection, Cell whispered, a cruel smile spreading, and you are merely insects. Omni-Man surged, aura blazing crimson, fists blazing with raw Viltrumite might. Each punch collided with Cell, sending shockwaves that leveled molten streets and shattered remaining debris. Cell countered flawlessly, striking back with palm, tail, and elbow attacks of surgical precision. Mark struck mid-air with a fury born of desperation and survival instinct. Bio-armor cracked slightly. Cell's eyes glimmered with fascination. Hybrid durability. Exquisite, he whispered, hurling Mark into molten rubble. Tremors spread for miles. Then Omni-Man and Mark synchronized fully, aura flaring beyond normal Viltrumite limits, red and faint green energy blinding in intensity. They charged Cell together. Every punch was a calculated strike of desperation, every kick a gamble against the apex predator. Shockwaves tore across the skyline, sparks of energy lanced outward, lighting molten rivers below. Cell staggered for the first time, emerald aura flaring violently. Interesting. This challenge excites me. Atom Eve, Monster Girl, Rex, Duplicate, and Robot launched their last desperate assault. Molecular tornadoes collided with massive fists. Explosions erupted in infinite patterns. Plasma beams tore across the molten city. Cell absorbed, adapted, and radiated energy outward. Sparks of emerald lightning tore the battlefield apart. Fires roared uncontrollably. Debris floated and evaporated instantly. Mark and Omni-Man surged together, fists blazing, aura blazing beyond any known limits. They struck Cell with everything they had. Shockwaves obliterated what little remained of the city. Green and red energy collided in violent arcs across the molten battlefield. Cell's laughter echoed, chilling, triumphant. Now the final lesson begins. The air ignited, the ground cracked. Molten rivers erupted in towering geysers. Energy arcs tore through the horizon like cosmic lightning. Chicago teetered on total annihilation. Omni-Man and Mark pushed themselves beyond Viltrumite limits, fists blazing, aura blazing brighter than stars. Cell's emerald form radiated perfection, each pulse of energy threatening to consume the entire planet. Sparks of molten green lightning lanced outward, consuming anything in their path. The Guardians braced, launching one final combined strike, a desperate cinematic gamble to save the world. The ultimate confrontation, apex predator versus Viltrumite might and heroism, was now at the peak of cinematic, planet-shattering fury. And above it all, Cell's laughter echoed, promising the end, or the beginning of an evolution that none could stop.